Hello, I'm Julian Hetherington, Automotive Transformation Director at the Advanced Propulsion Centre in the UK. I'd like to set out the context of what many of us here believe is probably the most disruptive period in the industry's history. That is, after we got rid of the man walking in front with the red flag, and set out the UK's challenge as we see it, our ambition to accelerate delivery of this transformation, and a key tool in our kit bag to rise to the challenge and to deliver our ambition. This is becoming a period of transformation like we've never seen since the Industrial Revolution, where not only the technology platform is being reinvented, but business models, supply chains, funding arrangements, consumer ownership and usage models are all subject to dramatic change. In other words, the paradigm is shifting. Oh, and by the way, this is all whilst we're battling with global pandemic, which is adding significant stresses to the industrial and consumer systems. And perhaps our response to this crisis may further accelerate our journey towards a lower carbon transport future through usage pattern changes, as an example, more home-based working over the long term and less commuting, and also wanting to lock in many of the benefits of cleaner air in our urban spaces and mitigate the drivers for climate change that is impacting so many around the world. So what's the UK's role? I'd like to set out the UK's electrification ambition, but start perhaps with a baseline of where we are today. The UK has a significant and strategically important auto industry, directly employing over 160,000 people in manufacturing and an estimated 800,000 plus in the wider life cycle. We have strong capability in powertrain and around 60,000 people involved in internal combustion engine manufacturing, supporting our strong export position of around 1.2 million engines a year, and over 80% of our finished vehicle production is exported to 160 countries worldwide, so not just the EU. We have a very diverse mix of volume, performance and luxury vehicles, and bus and truck makers, and over 60 niche vehicle manufacturers, as well as leading-edge motorsport. And this drives around £3.75 billion a year on automotive R&D. That's over 10% of the UK's total R&D spend, and second only to the chemical sector in value terms. We have a very strong R&D commitment and great integration with universities and research and technology organisations that support fundamental research and later development. We also recognise the challenge of life cycle analysis and have made great progress in decarbonising our power supplies. And this is vital in reducing the impacts of both manufacture and use of electrified vehicles. The UK laid down its first commitment to decarbonise the grid in 2011, implementing funding and regulatory reform to encourage decarbonisation throughout the energy sector. In fact, earlier this year, the UK set a new record of nearly 68 continuous days of entirely coal-free energy generation. And it's looking likely to reach targets of over 1,800 hours without any fossil fuels at all. This is a remarkable achievement since 2017, when the UK reached its first 24-hour mark. Just a couple of years on, and the UK is leading the G20 economies in terms of the fastest rate of decarbonisation. The complete life cycle of a vehicle is important to manufacturers, from production sustainability through to recycling. A large amount of electricity is needed to make vehicle batteries, and crucially, many of the input materials requiring a decarbonised electricity supply. The embedded carbon in new vehicles is not lost on customers either. Increasingly, consumers are questioning the carbon break-even point for a new car, and in round terms, making electric vehicles generally uses more energy than making conventional internal combustion engine powered cars. And that's in no small part because of the energy-intensive processes involved in making battery materials. Today, many of those materials come from China or more widely in Asia, and cell manufacturing in large part today is located in regions with high carbon intensity electricity generation. This is going to have to change. Consumers and OEMs are rapidly realising this is a problem, and I expect that we will see a strong and inexorable swing to territories that understand provenance matters. It matters not just in carbon intensity terms, but also in the ethics and the standards maintained for minerals extraction and processing in order to make the vital input materials for batteries and motors, for example. As a result of historically strong exports of both vehicles and powertrain, the UK therefore does have a global role in satisfying the ambitions of decarbonising transport. And I'm glad to say this is supported at home by cohesive and strong domestic policies to move us towards our net zero ambition. So what's happening in the UK automotive industry today? What might that transition look like? We're right on the cusp of changes in domestic policy following the UK Government's consultation on the end of new registrations for internal combustion engine powered vehicles. Already we've seen some countries in Scandinavia set targets between 2025 and 2030, with Norway already having achieved more than a 50% EV mix for passenger cars. This trend will continue, and the industry needs two things ideally: consistent global policies, given the international reach of almost all the industry outside of China, and advance warning, because of the long lead times to develop new architectures and to recover investments. Having spent over 30 years working in this industry, I know that the absence of either of these drives massive cost and significant chaos, frankly. But we don't live in a perfect world, so we have to find a way to manage the risks. I'd just like to look at the demand picture for the UK and use batteries perhaps as a surrogate for overall electrified vehicle production growth. Looking at global vehicle sales and estimated EV mix out to 2030, then the UK production share across all vehicle types, based on current export demographics and without any pull ahead from 2040 by the way, then it looks like the UK may need around 1.5 million battery packs a year, or the equivalent of 8 15 gigawatt hour per annum battery factories by 2040. And honestly, I think this will come earlier. This uptick in demand is expected to start in 2023 to 2025 as new model programs come on stream. And it's possible that customer preferences towards EVs will reach a rapid acceleration point and switch faster than regulation requires, as usability and affordability tipping points are reached in the mid-2020s. This will have massive impacts on manufacturing capacity growth for batteries. They're hard to ship long distances in bulk and would also tie up enormous quantities of working capital given their value, as well as capacity for motors, power electronics and fuel cells, the latter perhaps especially important in addressing the usage and duty cycle needs of heavy vehicles and buses, for example. This needs to come on stream as we see an inevitable decline in internal combustion engines and associated driveline production, where the UK is historically very strong. We have transferable skills in many areas, but this transition will also drive significant investment. Just one 15 gigawatt hour per annum battery factory is likely to drive between £1.5 and £2 billion investment. And the upstream materials supply industry, vital to drive the cost improvements needed, will be at a similar level, if not more. And let's not kid ourselves, this is not going to be a high margin business, so the risk is elevated, especially in the early years. So we're gearing up to support. Turning to the general innovation and business environment, the UK has actually got a pretty good track record. We consistently rank in the top 5 in the Global Innovation Index. We have a great history of attracting foreign direct investment, and our R&D environment benefits not just from the many high-value manufacturing catapults and other research technology organisations, but strong and effective links to our universities, where we benefit from 4 of the world's top 10. The foundations are there, but the pressures that this industry faces today are extraordinary and potentially growing, and we do not have the luxury of time. But let's turn these challenges on their head and look at them as drivers for a great opportunity. An opportunity to invest in recovery in a decarbonised way. An opportunity to design really cost-effective, designed from the ground up supply chains for these new technologies. To build a bridge for the existing skills and industrial asset base to support electrified vehicle systems, and to use the significant R&D base in the UK to propel us to true electrified vehicle manufacturing excellence in the shortest possible time, exploiting what we have and supporting development of what we need. This is the UK opportunity that we plan to support with the Automotive Transformation Fund. We recognise that any in-vehicle systems have a long upstream supply chain. And to make the industry competitive, we need an equally competitive supply chain right the way through to raw materials. And I mean competitive not only on cost, but also on security and resilience of these extended supply chains, as it is clear that as demand grows, some of those materials may be competed for across the globe. So we must develop agile and robust supply chains. The scale of this opportunity for the UK is significant, and we've published a report that highlights many of these opportunities and also serves to inform our programme of support, focusing on the best opportunities for the UK and filling the strategically important areas of these critical supply chains. Over the next 5 years, our conservative estimate for UK supply chain manufacturers amounts to over 24 billion. Now that's a prize worth fighting for and is based on a realistic, serviceable market demand estimate. The UK Government has demonstrated significant commitment to technological advancement in this industry. Through involvement in the Auto Council from 2009, a wide spectrum of programmes has been funded that had helped advancements in manufacturing processes, vehicle technologies such as connectivity and autonomy, infrastructure such as charging and data networks, and an immense focus on decarbonising propulsion systems. And this focus is in line with the UK's ambitions on net zero and supports the grand challenges of clean growth and the future of mobility. We should recognise that auto sector developments, particularly perhaps on cost and technology deployment at scale, often have very significant benefits that spill over into other sectors, and crucially has significant leverage on the upstream supply chain for materials. Building on the significant R&D base supported through the APC since 2013, the Government announced the Automotive Transformation Fund last year, and it was launched in July this year. The Automotive Transformation Fund, or ATF, is funding designed to form the last part of that bridge from R&D into industrialisation at scale. A programme that can provide support for investors in the key electrified vehicle technology areas of batteries, fuel cells, motors, drives and power electronics, and crucially, their upstream supply chains, as this is where global competitiveness will be supported. This fund is accessed through the APC, and we've already started to support over 30 feasibility studies considering larger scale projects, and received a number of significant expressions of interest for large-scale projects with a total investment of over £3 billion in just the first few months. We recognise that there is a significant shift in the industry. And as I mentioned earlier, the tipping point is coming at us very fast, and that inevitably brings great opportunities, but also risk. Our aim is to help mitigate some of those risks and accelerate this remarkable transition. The funding is planned to support a number of areas. Firstly, feasibility studies that may assess product or process scale-up challenges, or equally help to identify specific areas where the UK context needs work to make conditions right for your investment project. Secondly, capital investment support for large-scale industrialisation projects, where there is a need to bridge the gap in order to make the investment viable in the UK, or reduce the risk to an acceptable level in the early years. This is really about fast-forwarding to a competitive position that can be sustained in the long term. It is absolutely not about bailouts for a challenged industry. We also plan to support late-stage R&D that often goes hand in hand with major manufacturing technology investment. Process development, product process compatibility, for example. And this is where the UK already has a great head start, with access to the high-value manufacturing catapults, and especially in the battery space, the UK Battery Industrialisation Centre in Coventry, designed to be the testbed at industrial scale for leading-edge developments in battery chemistry, materials, battery architectures, and process development in a low-risk environment. Our ambition is simple: to become a global leader and the preferred location for the design, development and manufacturing of electrified vehicles and their supply chains. So how can we help? The front door for the ATF is via the APC, but we work collaboratively with not only BEIS, but DIT internationally. And our aim is to try and identify any hurdles, assist with the process steps needed to build a project proposal, and to a degree join up the dots of the various areas of support and be a champion for escalation of any matters that need addressing across all of the involved authorities where appropriate. We recognise additional challenges for inward investors in particular. I've planned major investment projects across several continents in the past, and I know that it's often helpful to have the support of a cross-organisation team to steer you to the right place and ensure that all of the bases are covered. One of the key factors in a large project is time determinism, knowing that you can deliver on time to suit your customers' needs and to start to deliver investor returns. Time is money, so we will help investors understand what needs to be done to deliver on time, what costs realistically need to be considered. For those looking to expand or set up new business at a significant scale, the UK Government has already identified and evaluated a set of very large potential manufacturing sites across the UK for your consideration. These have been characterised according to their availability and planning status, size of the site, labour availability and cost, accessibility by road, rail, sea and air, and proximity to major OEMs and important suppliers, as well as the provision of low-cost green energy. You can find details of the programme and how to engage with us on our website, but we'd like to help you through each stage so that you can benefit from our network and our research base in building your project. The process can start with a simple registration through our funding tool, and we will then help guide projects that are a good strategic fit with the ATF aims through all of the processes involved. We're ideally looking for large-scale projects that help fill key elements of strategic supply chains, and in doing so we plan to create the right landscape for a fully competitive and sustainable market environment that can support the industry in the UK and beyond. Our aims are simple: secure the transformation to electrification of the automotive sector in the UK at pace. Ensure that we retain our technological leadership position throughout this transformation. Support our strong export performance and the UK's green recovery post the current COVID crisis. Thanks for listening, and I look forward to working with the industry to help accelerate this fantastic transformation opportunity.